Okay, let's start with this image. It's 1878 near Grenada, Mississippi. An old servant walks up to this huge 4,000-acre farm, the Angevine place.
Sounds idyllic, but it wasn't.
No, the house is boarded up, silent, flies everywhere, buzzing around broken glass. He pushes inside, and this awful smell hits him.
Uh-huh.
And inside, the whole family. 6 people dead, their skin described as the color of unpolished brass. Just horrific decomposition.
Oh, terrible. But wasn't there a survivor?
Miraculously, yes, a child, Lena Angevine. She survived and later told this harrowing story of watching her sick father being robbed, choked even, as he was dying.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite an opening. It gives you a real visceral sense of what people faced.
Exactly. And it sets the stage perfectly for today's deep dive. We've got this really compelling set of sources taking us from these, tragic personal accounts right into a huge national crisis.
And then into the science, the breakthroughs that followed.
Right. So our mission here is to pull out the key insights from all this. It's a shortcut, really, to understanding a disease that genuinely shaped American history, its culture, its science.
We're looking at how this tiny, unseen enemy just crippled cities.
Yeah, and sparked incredible scientific work, challenged how society dealt with things.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how these human stories, the medical misunderstandings of the time and political choices all got tangled up against this really formidable foe.
Formidable is right.
And this deep dive, hopefully, helps connect those dots, between struggles back then and the global health challenges we still face.
Let's focus on Memphis, 1878, because that contrast is striking. Here's a city, they said, poised for greatness.
Yeah, it was booming, wasn't it?
Absolutely. 4 train lines, steam mills going constantly, cotton presses. They were putting up 1,500 buildings, even had the luxury Peabody Hotel, chef from Saratoga Springs, the whole deal.
Right. Very optimistic.
And just months before the plague hit, they threw this incredibly lavish Mardi Gras. Champagne fountains, huge parades. 10,000 tourists came.
Wow. So on the surface, everything looks amazing.
Exactly. But underneath that glittering surface, Memphis had this notorious reputation for, and this is the term used, deplorable sanitary conditions.
Ah, there it is. That's the telling part. Celebrating success while this invisible threat was basically creeping closer.
An invisible threat that had been traveling for centuries, really.
We're talking about the Aegis aegypti mosquito.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't your average mosquito. It's described as a finely evolved life form.
Originally from Africa.
That's right. Thrives indoors. And the females, they're the biters, they outnumber males 5-1. But the key thing was its, quote, peculiar adaptability to travel.
How so?
It just flourished on ships around where people lived. The eggs could survive for days, hatching in water casks, even in damp clothes tucked away in a trunk. Really resilient.
And the journey here to the New World, It's linked to the slave trade, isn't it?
Yeah.
A really grim connection.
It is. Yellow fever, it's a flavirus like West Nile or dengue. It was carried in the blood of enslaved people on those transatlantic ships.
And the mosquito eggs hatching in the water casks on board.
Yes. And there's that chilling detail about slave ships often being trailed by sharks, accustomed to bodies being thrown overboard. It paints a grim picture of how the disease traveled with human misery.
So this biological carrier, the mosquito, plus human movement and vulnerability, it just created the perfect conditions for it to get established here.
Definitely. And New Orleans became a major entry point, especially from Cuba. Quarantine laws there had been weakened, economic pressures.
Always the economic pressure.
Right. And there was a raging epidemic in Cuba. So ships like the Emily B. Souter got through inspection even with sick crew.
Like the purser, John Clark.
Exactly. He died later with all the classic yellow fever signs, Faggot sign, that weird slowing pulse with high fever, yellow skin, the black vomit.
But they didn't record it as yellow fever.
No, officially it was malarial fever, downplaying the threat. And this denial, plus the new railroad link between New Orleans and Memphis, well, it basically created a direct channel of contagion.
A tragedy just waiting to happen, fueled by denial. And speaking of denial, Memphis itself was caught up in this war of the doctors.
Yes, the big debate about how it actually spread.
The main theories, right. One camp saying it was all about filthy conditions, fomites, effluvia, bad air, basically.
The miasma theory, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other camp argued it was imported by traffic, ships, trains, people coming from infected places.
And caught in the middle was Dr. Robert Wood Mitchell, Confederate surgeon, head of the Memphis Board of Health, apparently marvelously tender and sympathetic.
And he was pushing hard for quarantine, wasn't he?
He was. But he ran into major opposition from Dr. John Erskine.
Erskine was worried about the economy. Panic, shutting down river traffic, cotton shipments, the usual arguments.
Yeah, he even got a public petition going that overturned Mitchell's quarantine vote. It's incredible, the public division.
It really highlights that tension, doesn't it? Economic interests versus public health. A lesson we keep having to relearn.
So Mitchell, totally frustrated, resigned in July. And he left them with this warning. Should we ever have yellow fever again, it will be our own fault.
Prophetic words.
Absolutely. Because when the news from New Orleans finally forced Memphis to quarantine on July 27th, it was, just as he said, too late.
The fuse is already lit.
Things started getting weird in July. Strange omens almost. Street lamps exploding. Mules just dropping dead from the heat.
People were distracted too, right? Edison's phonograph was new.
Yeah, fascination with technology. And for the superstitious, there was a solar eclipse under Ophiuchus, the serpent carrier constellation, historically linked to disease.
Signs everywhere, if you knew where to look.
Then came the unconfirmed cases. And that steamboat, the John D. Porter, already plague-stricken, just steamed past Memphis, spreading fever upriver.
A floating vector.
Then a deckhand from another boat died in Memphis. Classic yellow fever. Not officially recorded, though. But by August 23rd, they couldn't hide it anymore. Epidemic officially declared.
And the city just erupted.
Total chaos, a mass exodus. In just 5 days, over 25,000 people fled, more than half the population.
Leaving who behind?
The poor, the sick, anyone who couldn't get out, and the dead, of course. The scene at the train depot was apparently horrific, people trampling each other, guards herding people back onto packed, suffocating trains.
Unbelievable. So Memphis became, what, a ghost town?
Worse, a city of corpses.
Yeah.
Sources describe this pervasive smell of death so strong you could smell it miles away.
Oh, God.
Wagons went out collecting bodies. Yellow cards on doors meant illness inside. Black cards just said coffin needed, sometimes with dimensions man, woman, child.
It's logistical horror.
And all those Victorian mourning rituals, impossible. No proper goodbyes, no covered mirrors, no stopped clocks, just too many dead.
But amidst all that, there must have been some heroism.
Incredible heroism, like Sister Constance, her name was Caroline Louise Darling, and Sister Thecla from St. Mary's Cathedral, a church open to everyone, no pew fees.
Right. What did they do?
They'd actually been on vacation, but they came back to nurse the sick, care for orphans. They'd meet daily, get orders, carry these disinfectant-soaked cloths. They found people in conditions described as little better than a lot of animals.
Just wading into the thick of it.
Houses smelled like rotting hay, dark, full of moans, delirium, and bodies. Elmwood Cemetery was just bloated with shallow graves. There were even stories of people calling out from inside coffins.
Very too soon.
Yeah.
Or just the delirium of the workers. Hard to say. Horrifying either way.
And the doctors,
Yeah.
they were mostly helpless, weren't they? What could they even do?
Not much that worked. Treatments were often desperate. Iced whiskey, laudanum for pain, gin. People even drank gin thinking it would ward off the fever.
And Dr. Mitchell's protocol, calomel and quinine?
Yeah, that was the heroic medicine approach. Yeah. Calomel is a mercury compound. Quinine was given in huge doses. They were fighting symptoms with treatments that were often brutal, even toxic themselves.
Mercury poisoning, quinine toxicity, mimicking the fever symptoms. Wow.
It shows you, doesn't it? Without understanding the actual cause, even the best intentions could be useless, or worse.
And the disease itself. The symptoms were gruesome.
Piercing headaches, skin feeling like it was burning, fevers hitting 105, then kidney failure, internal bleeding, miscarriages.
And the mental decline.
Yeah, from irritability all the way to maniacal delirium, and then often the infamous black vomit just before death.
The personal stories just break your heart. Dr. Armstrong writing to his wife, feeling totally helpless, his hands crossed and tied.
Reverend Charles Parsons. He ministered to people until he got sick himself, read his own last rites, refused help from nurses to protect them.
Incredible selflessness. And Sister Constance working non-stop until she collapsed and died herself.
Volunteers like Louis Schuyler would arrive, full of purpose, and be dead within days.
The numbers are just staggering. 70% mortality for whites in Memphis, especially the Irish immigrants, 8% for black residents.
That disparity is significant. And the Howard Association nurses, mostly black, 3,000 of them served. A third of them died.
And the doctors. 33 out of 111 Howard doctors died. The city's losses, financially and in human life, were said to be greater than the Chicago fire, the San Francisco earthquake, and the Johnstown flood combined.
It's almost impossible to comprehend that scale of devastation today. And it really hammered home the point.
Yeah.
They had to figure out how this thing spread.
Yes. It became a national imperative, this sheer scale of death and the complete lack of understanding. It really raises that question you posed earlier.
How did a society making progress elsewhere remain so vulnerable? It wasn't just about social or economic growth. They desperately needed the scientific understanding.
And this desperation finally lit a fire under the national search for answers. Politically, things shifted. President Hayes saw the need for a federal board of health.
Which kicked off a big fight, right? Federal versus state control of quarantines.
Exactly. Between the American Public Health Association and the Marine Hospital Service. And ironically, Southern politicians, after suffering so much, were now arguing for federal control.
A complete reversal.
Yeah.
And wasn't there drama with the Surgeon General?
Yeah, John Woodworth. He lost the debate and died shortly after. Rumors said suicide. But eventually, the National Board of Health was formed, a big step for federal public health.
While all that political maneuvering was happening, there was this scientist in Cuba, Dr. Carlos Finley.
The mosquito man.
Right. Brilliant guy, but kind of ridiculed. Had a stutter. For 20 years, since 1880, he'd been pushing his mosquito theory. Did experiments on people, even priests.
They hadn't proven it definitively.
Not quite. And many in the medical establishment just dismissed him as a crank. His quiet obsession went ignored for far too long.
A classic story of a scientist ahead of his time. It took a war, didn't it, to really accelerate things?
The Spanish-American War in 1898. Grim catalyst, but a catalyst nonetheless. The sinking of the USS Maine. Hearst's sensationalist newspapers.
Yellow journalism literally fueling calls for a yellow fever cleansing in Cuba.
Yeah, Cuba seen as this natural appendage for America, both strategically and for health reasons. The war was quick, but disease was the real killer.
Not combat.
No. 2,500 American soldiers died, mostly from typhoid, dysentery, malaria, and yellow fever in those crowded camps. Disease, not bullets.
Dr. Victor Vaughn's account from Siboney, Cuba is terrifying. Sleeping in a hammock because of crabs, starving Cubans, then diagnosing yellow fever in his own camp.
Led to the whole place being evacuated and burned. And fear of yellow fever was so high, Teddy Roosevelt and General Shafter actually leaked a letter, the round-robin letter.
To force the troops to be withdrawn.
Exactly. Against Surgeon General Sternberg's advice. The fear of the disease was more powerful than military orders.
Which brings us to Major Walter Reed.
Yes. A humble army surgeon, but determined. Sternberg sent him to Cuba in 1900.
To lead the Yellow Fever Commission. Quite a team he had.
Absolutely. James Carroll, his assistant, eccentric but brilliant. Dr. Aristides Agramonte, Cuban-American pathologist thought to be immune, and Dr. Jesse Lazear.
Lazear sounds like a key figure. Meticulous bacteriologist, Johns Hopkins trained, already believed the mosquito theory.
He did. Sternberg's initial orders, though, were actually to disprove another theory, the Bacillus icteroides bacteria idea from an Italian scientist, Santarelli.
So Sternberg still wasn't sold on the mosquito.
No, he called the mosquito theory useless investigation at first. Lazear, meanwhile, his family was in Cuba, wife pregnant, he was homesick.
And doing secret experiments on himself.
Yes, never told his family. And then tragedy struck. He was bitten by an infected mosquito. Critically, one that had fed on a patient 12 days earlier, giving the virus time to incubate in the mosquito.
That incubation period was key.
Crucial. Lazear got severe yellow fever, worked through the night documenting his work as mosquitoes, and died. Left behind his pregnant wife, young son. His logbook contained this haunting mystery.
What a sacrifice. How did his death impact Reed and the commission?
Reed felt immense guilt, but it spurred him on. He became laser-focused, designed these incredibly careful experiments at Camp Lazear.
Starting with the infected clothing building.
Right. Building number 1, totally mosquito-proof, no sunlight allowed in. Volunteers, like Robert Cook, who refused any pay, slept there for 20 nights.
Surrounded by what?
The filth from yellow fever patients. Soil bedding, clothing, everything. And none of them got sick.
That must have been huge. Irrefutable proof against the filth theory.
Absolutely demolished it.
Yeah.
Then came building number 2, the infected mosquito building.
The definitive test.
Ingeniously designed. Split down the middle with a fine wire screen, clean steam sheets on both sides.
Okay.
On one side, volunteers slept, exposed only to the air. On the other side, John Moran, another volunteer working unpaid for medical science, slept naked.
And on his side.
Mosquitoes. 15 bites from mosquitoes known to be carrying the virus.
And the result.
Moran developed yellow fever. The control group on the other side of the screen. Perfectly healthy. That was it. The aha moment.
Reed must have been Well, relieved doesn't seem strong enough.
Reports say when Moran got sick, Reed told him, "Moran, this is one of the happiest days of my life," and apparently saluted Moran and another volunteer, Kissinger, saying, "Gentlemen, I salute you."
Wow. Definitive proof. Mosquitoes, not filth, not direct contact. That changed everything.
It really did, though the legacy is complicated. Carlos Finley finally got his recognition at a dinner in Havana. Never won the Nobel, though.
And Reed's assistant, Carroll?
James Carroll grew bitter, apparently, felt overshadowed, underpaid, became quite conflicted, hoarded letters and records, a sad postscript.
And Reed himself didn't live long after.
No. Walter Reed died in 1902 from appendicitis. His health likely weakened by the Cuba work. His epitaph says it all. He gave demand control over that dreadful scourge, yellow fever.
A fitting tribute. And his work paved the way for control, for eradication efforts.
Starting with Major William C. Gorgas, described as a military man who ended up a doctor. Very direct approach.
What did he do in Havana?
Attack the mosquitoes head on. Quarantine patients under netting, sealed cracks in houses, burned insect powder, fined people if larvae were found on their property. Simple, aggressive measures.
And it worked.
Dramatically. So much so, he applied the same methods to the Panama Canal project.
Where the French had failed disastrously because of yellow fever and malaria?
Exactly. De Lesseps lost maybe a third of his workforce. Gorgas, with Teddy Roosevelt's backing, targeted the mosquitoes relentlessly. Cases plummeted to zero. The canal got built.
Incredible impact. He became Surgeon General later, right? Knighted even?
Yes, by King George V, a huge figure in public health history.
But controlling the mosquito wasn't the final answer. They needed a vaccine.
Right. The Rockefeller Institute got involved, aiming not just to study disease, but to eradicate it, spent millions.
And the breakthrough came in Africa.
West Africa, 1927. Adrian Stokes and his team found a man named Asibi. His blood, injected into monkeys, finally proved it was a filterable virus, not bacteria. First big step towards a vaccine.
But there was still tragedy in that search, too.
Yes, Dr. Hideo Noguchi, a famous Rockefeller bacteriologist, still believed it was bacterial, went to Africa, experimented on himself, and died of yellow fever. So did his colleague, William Young.
Unbelievable. Just underscores the danger.
It was Max Theiler who finally did it, manipulated the virus, weakened it, to create a protective vaccine. Similar principle to Jenner's smallpox vaccine.
Based on the virus itself.
Exactly. Yellow fever virus doesn't mutate much, but it hits the immune system hard. So a live, weakened vaccine was key to priming the body's defenses.
Which brings us closer to today. Is yellow fever still a threat?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For the unvaccinated, it's still deadly. We saw that with Tom McCullough in 2002, died after a fishing trip to the Amazon. Contemporary medicine couldn't save him because he wasn't vaccinated.
And it's resurging in some areas.
Yes. There's the yellow fever belt in Africa. 93% of West African countries affected now. Incidence is up in South America too, and climate change is expanding the mosquitoes' range.
Pushing it into new places.
And the irony. America fought Spain partly over yellow fever fears, but now, because of things like opposition to DDT use, Aedes aegypti never fully left the U.S. So we see outbreaks of related diseases like dengue in Texas.
And it's even considered a potential bioterrorism agent.
It's on the list, yes.
Yeah.
The reality is we probably can't fully eradicate yellow fever because it survives in animal populations, monkeys mainly. Nature gives it sanctuary.
So control is the key.
Education and routine vaccination. That's how we contain it and prevent repeats of horrors like Memphis.
And the sacrifices made along the way, they are remembered.
Congressional gold medals for Reed, Lazear, Agramonte, Carroll, and those incredibly brave volunteers, Andrus, Kissinger, Moran.
Walter Reed Army Medical Center stands as a monument.
A dream of Dr. William Borden, realized in Reed's name. And back in Memphis, in Elmwood Cemetery, people still put fresh flowers on the graves of Reverend Parsons, Louis Scaler, the Sisters of St. Mary Constance, Thecla, Francis, Ruth.
The martyrs of Memphis,
Yeah.
not forgotten.
No.
Not forgotten. So wrapping this up, what an incredible journey. From that boarded-up house in Mississippi through the terror of Memphis to the labs where scientists like Reed and Lazear risked everything.
It really shows how human courage, scientific breakthroughs, and sometimes just heartbreaking loss are all woven into the story of fighting disease.
How an invisible enemy shaped so much history, pushed science forward, and really tested humanity.
And if we connect it to the bigger picture, the yellow fever story is such a potent reminder that our battle with disease is never really over. Our understanding keeps evolving.
It makes you think about how we apply those lessons today.
Definitely. Lessons not just for medicine or vaccine development, but for building public trust, for making sound political decisions, especially now with our changing relationship with the natural world.
Yeah.
The invisible enemies haven't gone away.
That leaves us with a thought, doesn't it? As we face our own global health challenges, climate shifts, what's our responsibility, personally and collectively, to make sure we learn from the American plague? How do we honor the legacy of those who gave so much to fight these invisible enemies?